Manga.
This is a story of over a decade ago. I was working in a convenience store part-time while going to school, and often people would come to ask me to break their bills so they could use the lockers at the station. Those lockers were run by the same company that ran the convenience store, so most of the time it was okay to exchange for them. When it was busy, I'd constantly be breaking bills. But since it was the middle of nowhere, after the final train left at 10 PM, it was slow. I was working part-time there, and it was right around 12 PM when a woman wearing a long white dress showed up. You didn't really see people dressed like that in the middle of nowhere, but she was in her 20s and seemed like a normal, pretty lady. She seemed to be in a little hurry and was looking around the store. She saw me restocking the snack section and suddenly,
"Excuse me, I'd like to use the lockers next door. Can you break my bills for me?"
she asked me for an exchange. "Sure, come by the register for me." I led her to the cash register. She asked me to break a 10, so I gave her a $5 bill and $5 in quarters back to her.
I kind of have a lot of stuff. Can you make it all quarters, please?
I was surprised at how much stuff she was planning to stuff into the lockers. I didn't think it was insane though, so I exchanged it for her. By the way, you can use the lockers for $1 every day, but every time you extend another day, you had to pay another $1. We'd often get complaints about how they put their stuff in at 9 AM, and when they came to pick it up at 8 AM the next morning, they had to pay extra. It was because we didn't mean 24 hours of use. We used the date to measure the time. It seems to be different from service to service, but our locker cutoff was 1 AM. That meant that if you put your stuff in at 11 PM and came back at 7 AM the next morning, you'd still have to pay for 2 days' worth. We had warning signs and everything. That meant that if the woman put the stuff in the locker right now, at 12 AM, then in an hour she'd have to pay an extra $1. I thought that was a little crummy, so I explained it to her. About the coin lockers, but then
I'm in a hurry, so...
She pretended to understand and returned to the car that was parked out front. I was kind of curious at this point, so I went outside to look at her pulling out something big from the back of the car and take it into the lockers. About an hour later, she came back into the store and bought a lot of ice. Then she asked me to break another 10. It cost another $1, so I wanted to explain it to you, but I told her that I tried to warn her, but...
It's fine. I'm in a hurry, so... Bye.
She vanished into the lockers again. About a week later, I got a call from the store owner when I wasn't working. He said that the police wanted to talk to me, so he wanted me to come by the store. I had a bad feeling. When I made it to the store, there were several police cars there, and the yellow "Keep Out" tape all over the lockers. It was covered by some sheets so that you couldn't see inside. There was a real-life police investigation unfolding in front of me, and there were people that looked like they were in CSI coming in and out of the sectioned-off part of the lockers. When I made it to the office, there were a few police officers and a man wearing a suit. The second they saw me, "I want to ask you about this woman." He showed me a photo. That's the woman from... It was absolutely that woman that was wearing the long white dress. He saw my reaction and immediately started asking questions. "You did see her then? Where did you see her?" She came by the store and said she wanted me to break her bill to use the lockers. I ended up breaking two $10 for her in total. "Okay, so you exchanged your $10 twice. Do you know what time you two made the exchange?" I think it was when we didn't have much coming in, so it was last Saturday, around 12 AM. But the date had just changed, so maybe it was Sunday? The store manager listened to me and started punching in the date on the computer. He pulled up the security camera's feed. There she was on the monitor, both of us talking and exchanging the bill and change. The police were watching her, and that's absolutely her. They looked at each other and started jotting things down. What did she do? I was afraid to ask, but I mustered up the courage. There was apparently a cut-up body in the locker. The woman was already arrested and in custody at this point, and the reason they wanted to talk to me was to make sure she had been here. This was on the news and even on some documentaries. The police officer didn't tell me many details, but according to the news, she hadn't only stuffed parts into the lockers. She'd also thrown away parts onto the trash cans, on some rest stops, and some parts into the woods. She had apparently thought that the smaller bits would be eaten by crows, and the trash would be taken out regularly as raw food. The locker was for the parts that were too big to be severed. She was planning on coming back after work the following weekend to dig a hole to throw the parts away. This is what I heard from the store owner, but apparently the timing was not on her side. It was in the middle of summer and it was burning up outside. The smell was unbearable very quickly, and the store owner had received a complaint from a locker customer. He went to go check. He found multiple bags with parts inside, mixed with bags of melted ice. The bags smelled terrible, even when they weren't open, so he called the police immediately. The police showed up to open the bags, and the store manager couldn't help but vomit after smelling the bags being opened. Even a few months after that, the store manager said he could still smell the stench burned into his nose. It must have been a truly wretched stench. The woman was arrested shortly after the locker was opened. Her motive was because she hadn't been able to work things out with her boyfriend. After killing her boyfriend, she cut him up in the bathtub. She had put him in several layers of bags and kept him on ice to prevent him from rotting. A week or so later, the sheets were removed and the lockers were replaced. The lockers were open for service again. Of course, the amount of people using the lockers dropped to almost nil. About a year later, the lockers shut down. I kept working at that convenience store even after the incident. However, I started to go by those lockers at night to throw away the trash. There are lights, but it's dim, and that makes it even more spooky. I'd often turn around and be terrified. She often showed up in my dreams too, almost killing me. Also, there was a man that was taking a bicycle trip, and he probably didn't know about the incident. He was sleeping under the locker in a sleeping bag, and it hurts. He was clearly having a bad time in his dreams. He was sleeping right next to the locker where the body was.
My name is Yuko. I was proposed to by my boyfriend Tano. I happily said yes. He was an employee at a client's company, and I had just met him when I went to visit their office. It had been about 2 years since we started dating, so I thought it was good timing. We both introduced each other to our families and we moved to a new mansion together since we were going to get married. We were both working, so he helps out a lot around the house. There was one thing that I was bothered by. It was his childhood friend, Girl A. The first time I met her, she immediately looked at what I was wearing and... The colors are nice, but the combo, I'll give about 65 points total. First impression, by the way. Honestly, I was super shocked by the terrible attitude she was giving me the first time we met. At first, I thought maybe I was thinking too much about it, but she kept going. 63 points, 56 points, She just continued to score me. To make things worse, all of the scores were low. It was the first time I had been ranked, so part of me was a little at loss and part of me was just furious. I was just a mixture of negative feelings. To seal the deal, man, you're not good enough for Tano when your score is this low. She laughed and went home. I was pissed off, but I was even more furious at Tano for not saying anything to her. Honestly, I don't want anything to do with her anymore. But then he said,
Hey, she wants to come back sometime for dinner.
Huh? Girl A?
Yeah, so I told her to come by this weekend. Could you cook something nice for us?
What? You already said okay? I didn't even say I was okay with it.
What, you didn't want me to invite her?
Because I don't want to be scored again. I couldn't tell him. I just played it off. He said it was fine, so she was coming over this time. But if she's coming over, I want to make sure she can't say anything about my cooking this time. So I got all kinds of great foods and make sure that I only use the finest ingredients for my meals. This should do it. There were great dishes in front of me and I prepared everything perfectly before welcoming Girl A. Good afternoon, guys.
Hi, come on in.
Wow, I didn't know you lived here. You're living the life.
What about your husband? Does he know about dinner?
It's fine. I just made him something random and left it. Then we walked into the living room and he said,
Whoa, this looks really good. My favourites are here too.
But she just glared at my food and didn't say anything. How about we eat, huh? Sorry if you don't like it. We started eating, and while we were eating, she only talked about the things that only her and Tano would understand. Oh yeah, the other day, Boy B.
What? Really?
Honestly, it's someone that I have no idea about, so I can't say anything, but he just keeps talking to her. I'm quiet, and he didn't care that I wasn't able to join in. What is this person doing? What the hell did she come here for? While I was eating, I could slowly feel myself becoming more blue. I worked so hard for this food. No, thank you, or no compliments. As dinner was finished and she was heading home, she got up and said, "The looks were good, but you were too focused on the looks that the flavor sucked, so you got a 48. Why the hell do I have to put up with this? I could feel my heart pounding out of rage, but I kept it in. Sorry. You really should study to be better. What the actual fuck? She went home, but I blew up. Excuse me? What is wrong with her? Does she have any idea how hard I worked to cook for everyone tonight? And what the hell was that score? Is she trying to taunt me?
You don't have to be that mad. She's probably just trying to check you out since she's my childhood friend, you know? Besides, maybe you'll start working a little harder if she scores you, huh?
What? You think that's what will motivate me? Why the hell do I have to deal with her looking down on me? I'm your fiancé, and she's just a childhood friend. And you don't cover for me at all. You don't care if she knocks me like that?
No, I don't really care what she says about you.
I was honestly at a loss for words. I was about to marry him, and he was okay with me being berated in front of him like that? I could feel myself growing distant from him every breath I took. I'm done. I thought that this wasn't going to work out anymore. Honestly, she's married too. Why the hell does she come between us anyway? As I was struggling to figure things out, he started talking to me about her again.
Hey, she wants to come over again. You're cool with that, right?
Of course not. How can you not tell already?
Oh, come on. She's like a sister to me. Don't be like that.
If there was a scale and it was her or me, he probably wouldn't be able to choose. To me, that's all I was. I wasn't worth anything. Whatever. I'm not cooking again.
Thanks. I'll let her know.
I saw how happy he was talking to her, and I made a decision. That weekend... Good afternoon, I'm here again. She came in and immediately clung on to my husband before they got on the couch and started talking to each other. Oh, Yuko, I want to eat something.
She hasn't made anything tonight.
Oh, what? Hold on. She's a stay-at-home wife and she's not gonna cook? Wow, that's out of the question. You're gonna be like a solid 30 after that.
Oh, come on, don't drop her that low.
While they were laughing, the doorbell rang.
Huh? Who is it?
Oh, I figured we could use more company, you know. I invited someone. There was a man that stood at the entrance. Tall, handsome, and great-looking. As soon as Tano saw him...
Who is that man?
Oh, he's an old friend of my brother, and he's always looked after me. Oh, I'm getting hungry though. Let's order something, huh? I ordered something to get by. He wasn't happy that Man C showed up and was glaring at him the whole time, but this was just the beginning. After the delivery showed up and we started eating, Man C opened his mouth.
What kind of company do you work at? Oh, I work at Tanabata Inc. Oh, okay. Kind of small scale. What about your husband? Girl A, was it? Where does he work?
Uh-huh. Oh, Company A.
Huh. I see. Both you work at a small scale company, huh? I see both of them are pretty bland and boring, so I'd say objectively speaking, you guys get a 20. What the hell? How dare you rank someone you've only just met?
Yeah, my husband isn't even here. What the hell, Yuko? Why'd you bring this guy? Oh, I'd love to say the exact same thing to the both of you. Imagine how it feels to be scored and ranked by someone you've only just met. What are you even mad about? You've been scoring me this whole time, girl A, and you've been totally fine with her doing it. You're not okay now that you're being ranked?
I mean, you know.
But this person is a stranger. Yeah, you're a complete stranger to me too. I don't give a rat's ass about you. You're just a random childhood friend and you're looking at me like I'm not his fiancé. So yeah, I'm just gonna let you know now the engagement is off.
What? Why?
Are you serious right now? You've been sitting there, watching your own fiancé get beat to a pulp mentally, and you're fine with it. In fact, you went along with it. I don't want to be with you for the rest of my life. I don't want to be with you for another second. I've already explained this to your parents, and both my parents and brother are fine with it. We're done.
No, wait. Wait, hang on. Yuko.
His parents wouldn't let him go home anymore because they found out the reason that the engagement was called off. Girl A was already not getting along with her husband, so this time around, he suspected her of having an affair, so he was going to divorce her too. I received a large amount of money from both of them before cutting ties with that moron. He still sometimes sends me texts asking to rekindle things, but I'm never going to get back with that loser.
Yumi and I started talking about marriage since we had been dating a few years. She accepted my proposal and we had our parents greet each other as well. Yumi's grandmother suggested we put in our wedding papers quickly. We had moved a little too quick. We couldn't find a place to live. We really moved too quickly.
True, but we're already married. We're husband and wife.
We were so in love and felt like we would have our wedding real soon. A few months later, we found a nice place. We finally found one, I said to Yumi, expecting a joyous response. However, she seemed a little upset.
Yeah,
What's wrong? Did something happen?
I have something important to talk to you about.
She said, looking down. I thought it was that she didn't like the room I suggested. Maybe she fell out of love with me while we were living apart. I was thinking of all the worst things in my mind. My wife suddenly raised her head.
I was cheating on you.
What? I was shocked, and she looked refreshed. I was continuously shocked by the words that followed.
Oh, but don't worry about it. I broke up with him yesterday. You're my only one now. I thought I'd keep it from you, but we're married, so we can't keep secrets.
Are you being serious? She looked like she was so proud of herself for being loyal. It was gross. Yumi, clearly not feeling any guilt from the fact she was having an affair, tried to end the conversation as abruptly as she had started it.
Let's not hide anything going forward. Alright, that's it for this subject.
I was a little slow to understand what was going on and stared at her for a while before I said something back with furious rage. What the hell are you talking about? We're not over this subject. You need to get your head checked. Yumi looked over, seriously surprised.
I said it was over. Why are you so mad?
You ended it yesterday? What the hell, this whole time? How many times did you sleep with him while we were living apart?
I said I'm done with it. If you keep going, I'm going to get tired of you.
That's not the problem here. You understand you're my wife, right?
I know. We got married. What is that attitude anyway? We're married now, so I told you everything without hiding it.
This girl must be thinking I'm an idiot. I thought that I could finally live with Yumi. This was too shocking for me to stay cool, calm and collected. However, Yumi clearly messed up in the head.
Wait, Tano, listen to me. Husband and wife means that two strangers come together to talk about things and forgive each other, right? But you're not listening to me at all. I don't think we're going to work out if we keep this up. Okay?
What? Is this really the woman I married? I slowly started boiling with rage watching her behaviour. She spent countless nights with men while I wasn't around. I honestly even felt like puking.
Tano, are you okay?
Don't touch me. Get the hell out of my house. I thought about what I should do after chasing out Yumi. I talked to a mutual friend who worked at her office and told her everything. And her friend said,
Oh, sorry, I didn't tell you. She was apparently going out with one of her bosses. I saw her with some random dude in Shibuya the other night. I thought it was weird.
I could have said that sooner. But I was able to at least figure out who the person she was having an affair with was. First, I need to report this to a certain someone, so I made my move. That whole time, Yumi had called and texted me an upward of 300 times, but I ignored her and called her parents. She must be there.
What's going on, Mr. Tano? She just came home out of the blue.
Apparently, Yumi hadn't explained anything to her parents. Did she tell you anything at all?
No, nothing out of the normal.
Okay, I'll go over right now. Let me explain everything once I get there. I took Yumi's stuff from my house and headed to her parents' place. When I got there, her parents welcomed me in. Yumi and her father were both in the room.
So, what happened, Tano?
Her mother-in-law asked me so. I'll just be frank with you. Your daughter said that she was having an affair up until yesterday. I'm going to get a divorce, of course. And then Yumi said,
No! What are you talking about? We were done with that conversation.
I don't know why she was crying. I honestly couldn't feel the least bit of sympathy for her.
This must be some kind of mistake.
Please look at these texts and messages. I handed my phone to a trembling mother-in-law. As they confirmed what had happened, the mum collapsed crying and the father was furious. Do you understand what you've done? You apologize. Beg for forgiveness. He continued to berate her. I was aware of the hell that had just spawned in front of me. Let's talk about our divorce. He calmed everyone down to bring our conversation back to the topic at hand. Then Yumi, screaming.
I don't believe you divorced me over this. You're telling me I shouldn't have told you the truth and been honest with you? Just kept it to myself? Forever?
She ignored the fact that she had cheated and gotten mad at me. I was done. Shut the hell up, you bitch. You think it's fine as long as you don't say anything? Husband and wife should talk to each other. Are you stupid? I don't have any love or trust in you. I don't want to see you. She finally realised what she had done and was trembling in fear of me. I was cheating on you, but I told you the truth, so forgive me? What's wrong with you? What would you do if I did the same thing to you? And you realise that your partner had a family? You piece of shit. What are you talking about? This conversation is over. How can you smile? I was just bluffing when I pretended to know that he had a family, but apparently I was right.
Why are you... What? Suing?
Whatever. I'm going to get a divorce and I'm going to be suing you and your partner. So you better be ready. I was in front of her parents, but I didn't care anymore. It was obvious that they were extremely angry at her. Later on, I called up her affair, as I said, and we all started talking about our divorce and the terms. The man. I'm so sorry. He apologised, but I wasn't planning on just saying it's okay. If you can't pay me $50,000 in damages, I'm going to take you to court so you won't be able to hide it from your work or family. He looked shocked and upset. Oh, okay, he replied quietly. I came out victorious and immediately had them sign the contracts. Next up was Yumi, but we just couldn't get anything that made sense out of her, so we spoke with the parents and had everything settled.
I'm not going to let this go.
Yumi was borderline insane, so I made sure that I put in a restraining order. If she broke the restraining order, she would be fined $1,000. Surprise, surprise, she showed up at my house 3 times after that. She was forced to pay the fine, and then she suddenly stopped showing up. Apparently, her parents had basically confined her to her room. She had an affair and apologised like she had eaten my last fry. I seriously am actually a little terrified of her. If I hadn't divorced her, I'd be living life with a woman who thought it'd be fine if she just told the truth about everything. Yeah, no, that's not okay. I withdrew myself from the house that we were supposed to move into, and currently, I live in a quiet but peaceful place in the town over. Yumi talks about how she still loves me, but I'm never going to deal with her for the rest of my life again.
My name is Suzu. I have a twin sister, but we look completely different. She was cute and looked beautiful. She had all of the nice parts of my parents. I, on the other hand, had all the bad parts from my parents. My father even thought that my mother even cheated because I looked so different. My parents always treated us differently, and even when we were in kindergarten, the adults in the area always compared me to her. We were always talked about with how different we looked. I knew that I was treated as a nuisance, even as a child. We went to different elementary schools. I went to a regular public school while my sister went to a private school far away. Some of the boys that went to the same kindergarten as me,
You should be named Ugly instead of Suzu.
would bully me the whole time I was in elementary school for being different from my sister. Afterwards, my sister went to a really great middle school while I went to a public school. I met someone there that I could call a friend. Ugh, boys are so stupid. They should really judge based on their personality. Suzu, don't worry about what they're saying. You aren't embarrassed being around me? Why are you so kind to me? I was in the same kindergarten as you. Every time I was being bullied by some boys, you always came and protected me. I was a little weak because of my asthma and kind of a shut-in, so I really appreciated you. I want to be with you. I was about to cry out of joy. Afterwards, my parents had told me that I wasn't allowed to go to a private school, but if I went to a public school, I could go with Mikako, so I had no option but to agree. Suzu, you're so smart. Why don't you go to a private school? My sister gets all the attention at my house. They don't even spend money on me. Your sister is that smart? It's not that she's smart. She just looks good. They want her to go to an all-girls school to avoid her getting into it with boys. Ah, I see. I started working part-time jobs while I went to school. I didn't have a bank account, so I just saved the money in my drawer. However, one day, my money was all gone. Oh, I took that money off your hands. I'm cute, so I need money, you know. I have a lot of friends, and I need to buy a lot of cute clothes. What the hell? I was saving that money to go to college. Then, my parents came in to protect her. Suzu, if you're saving money from your job, you should pay your parents.
Seriously? How stingy.
She's ugly on the outside and the inside. My sister ended up going to a college from recommendations by teachers at her school. She was having fun at club meets and drinking parties. I didn't have any money to go to college, so I ended up just finding a job. My parents just kept saying that if I was working, I had to send money home, so I had no choice but to agree. One day, my father suddenly started talking to me.
Hey, you wanted to go to college, right? I can help convince your mother to let you.
Really?
You're ugly, but you have a very nice body.
My father looked at me up and down like he was looking at some meat and slowly closed in on me.
You know what I mean?
I felt in danger, so I slowly backed off and said, Fine, Mom and Sis are gone next weekend, so I'll do it then.
Okay, great. Next week then.
I called Mikako, my friend who had moved to Tokyo, immediately and told her everything. Suzu, you need to get the hell out of there. Come live with me. Mikako, thank you. I was bawling from her kindness. I quit all of my part-time jobs and gathered my things before leaving. When I got to the station, Mikako welcomed me with a smile on her face. Suzu, you are free to do what you want now. Thank you. I've left the house, so I guess I can start by changing my phone number, huh? Yeah, let's go to the phone store now. Afterwards, I stayed with Mikako in her house while saving money to go to college. I couldn't believe how great it was to do what I wanted without any interruptions. I felt so fulfilled. I was able to successfully go overseas to study. I told Mikako after she got home from work, and she was as happy as if she had been the one to get the good news. Suzu, congrats! You better come home sometimes to visit her. I went to school using a bunch of scholarships and moved to the States. At first, I was pretty nervous, but I eventually started getting used to things. I came home sometimes and met Mikako, but I never met my parents or my sister. After I graduated college, I went home and found a job that I could use my degree in. That's where I met someone of my dreams and got engaged.
I need you, Suzu. Please marry me.
I was scared to accept, but I said yes to his proposal. Both of us were very busy, so we put in our marriage papers first before the wedding. My husband wasn't a huge fan of weddings, so he only invited a few people, including his relatives and some close friends, to have a small party. However, somehow my sister and my parents somehow figured out our wedding and suddenly came barging in. My parents, who looked good, were completely different now. My dad was a balding middle-aged man and my mother was an obese woman. My sister was still pretty though. She immediately started flirting with my husband. Whoa, you're great looking. Drop her and come with me. You wanna be with this beautiful woman, not her, right?
Suzu ran away from home and never came back. She's terrible.
Momo is actually beautiful and great with men. Suzu is ugly on the inside and the outside, so she's probably just fooling you. I couldn't say anything after they came just to insult me. My husband might believe them. He might want to get with her since she was prettier. I was worried, but those worries were in vain.
Stop talking shit about my wife.
Suzu-chan is beautiful. Are you serious? My husband and his sister both covered for me. Where? She's so ugly. Look at her. Yukun, my husband's sister's son, stared at her. See? Look. Even the child knows that I'm beautiful. Just as she smirked. Who is this lady? Did she not learn from her teacher that you shouldn't be mean to people? What did you just say? What a little shithead. Get out of here. She slapped him across the face. And that made my husband's parents furious. How dare you! You will not lay a single finger on kids! Get out! You're not family at all! They chased them out of the wedding. Afterwards, my sister, who had bad spending habits, had a lot of loans and kept trying to come crying to me, but I lived overseas, so it wasn't like she could ask me for help. In the end, my parents couldn't repair her loans either, so they left her all alone and vanished into the night. My sister? She works the brothel and streets now, doing Lord knows what with random men to pay off her debt. She didn't study in school, so she only had her body to sell. I lived with my husband and his parents. We had a child, and we're still figuring things out, but we live a happy life together. There was a really insane person at my old office. She had a serious case of RBF, but she was beautiful. However, you can't be fooled by her looks. She would steal, lie, be violent, and have affairs. She was just one of the worst people you could imagine. She would just keep talking about how men would just keep following her around. Please help me, and wouldn't stop bragging. She thinks that she's some kind of descendant of an elite class bloodline. I honestly thought maybe she had some kind of disease or something, like a mental thing. Also, after she started working there, a lot of weird things started happening in the office. At first, I didn't realize that it was her doing, but things around my desk and lockers started disappearing. I thought maybe someone had used or taken things by accident. I had written my name on a lot of things, So it was a little difficult to believe that someone would mistake it though. I talked to the manager about it and he just kind of looked at me funny.
You're thinking too much. You shouldn't doubt your co-workers.
He said. I was a little sad about the fact that he made me feel bad for losing my stuff. Nothing was really solved in the end. At the time, I liked to take photos and I would help the public affairs and advertisement departments out with their photos. People really liked my photos, but that was more so that my camera was incredible rather than my photography skills. I think anyone who used that camera would be able to take great photos. That coworker asked me if she could use my camera one day. My nephew is having a field day at school, so I was hoping I could take the photos for his parents. But the camera I have is so old and janky. Can you lend me your camera? She said. I'm sorry, but I can't lend you that camera. Please, I'll return it right away. I can't do it. Sorry, ask someone else. What? Come on. It's fine. I kept telling her no, but she wouldn't just take no for an answer. Eventually, she just took my camera without asking when I left it on my desk. When I came back to my desk, I realized that the camera was gone. Oh no! My camera is gone! I was panicking when one of my coworkers who happened to be passing by said,
Oh, she said that she borrowed it from you and left.
So I called her phone right away. I'll return it by Monday. Don't be so mean. She didn't even make an excuse. It was as if she did anything wrong. But the camera is... Right as I was about to tell her, she hung up on me and then she apparently blocked my number. Come Monday, my coworker didn't come to work, so the camera, of course, didn't show up either. She took off Tuesday as well. But on Wednesday, she had come into work and the camera was on my desk. I was happy that the camera was returned for a split second before I realized something. The lens cap was taken off and there was a huge scratch on the lens. The corners were also dented in and I tried turning on the camera when I realized that it wouldn't turn on. I went to her to question her, but... Camera? What are you talking about? She pretended not to know what I was talking about. No, you took my camera without my permission. Took it? What are you talking about? You must be losing your mind. Honestly, you shouldn't be bringing a camera that was important to work anyway. I don't know what happened to it, but it's your fault, not mine. She just kept saying things as if she had not a clue in the world. This isn't my camera. This is the section chief's camera. Huh? He lent it to me because he wanted me to help out the advertisement department. He said that the price is close to 10K, but I don't know the exact price. She started panicking a little bit more, but then immediately, I said I have no idea. You broke the camera, and you're sitting here saying that I did something. You're seriously just insane. She yelled. But then I said, I didn't say it was broken. How do you know? Oh. She looked a little frozen. I also felt like it was my fault for leaving it out where anyone could take it too, so we both went out to the section chief. I told him everything that I knew and said that I would pay it back. Then the coworker... Seriously, how can you leave it out like that when you lent it to her? It's so wrong on her part. She should pay for it, right, Chief? She said, riding her high and mighty horse. This little... Honestly, I was pretty pissed, but then the chief said,
Neither one of you had any bad intention.
He just left it alone. When I left the room, the coworkers said, You really dodged a bullet there, huh? And she patted me on the shoulder. For some reason, her and the manager were called up to the section chief the next day. I don't know what happened, but they were both gone within a week. According to my friends who loved gossip, it was a lie. It wasn't her nephew. She had an affair with a manager, and that's why the manager is separated right now. They even had kids. But apparently, she's been trying to get closer to them to get the manager to divorce his wife. She went to the field day and the wife couldn't make it because of her. So she says. Apparently, the manager I initially talked to about the thefts was having an affair with her. How did the section chief find out? The memory card had photos of them at the field day, apparently. There were also some photos of them in the middle of it as well. The camera had a double slot memory, so she could only took out one memory card but forgot about the other. The second photo contained all of the incriminating evidence. She said that she was basically raped by the manager and screaming that it wasn't her fault, but the section chief saw the photos on the camera and deemed it impossible that she wouldn't have given consent. She still refused to admit any of it, but because all of the other news of her theft and violence came to light, she was terminated the next week. She apparently was violent towards coworkers who had known about the affair and threatened them not to tell anyone. There were even some coworkers who were thrown hard enough against the wall to dislocate their shoulders. The manager knew about everything that she was doing, but ignored it because they were having an affair. He was sent off to the middle of nowhere. The camera was used as evidence for all of the other cases that were brought forward for their wrongdoings. They also had to pay for the camera. The parents of the woman begged all of the people to take the charges down. They insisted they would pay for all the damages that she had committed. Some of the people decided to go with it, but most wanted to see her punished, so they continued to file their charges against her. As a result, she was sent behind bars. She apparently was a regular shoplifter in high school, and she had been dealt by the police numerous times. That, added to all of the current charges, added to a year and 5 months in prison without any chance of parole. She was going to pay off her debt to the society. Her parents probably tried her best to avoid this because they knew she would go to prison if she was charged. A year and a half later, she showed up at the office as if nothing had happened. She apparently came here to ask for a job since she was in the market for one. She wasn't allowed any further than the entrance and she was ignored by all of the employees. The section chief told her to get out as well. A normal person would leave, but not her. I'm not leaving till you hire me. She was furious. Apparently, she had gone to other interviews as well, but they all turned her down. She must have thought that this was the only place she could go. The police were called up and she was arrested again. The company has been peaceful since. There are some rumors that she may be in prison again, but I just hope she never shows up around me again.
I used to work for a small company with about 10 employees, but it was now what we call a black company, and overtime was the norm every day. And there was no overtime pay. Lunch breaks were only a few minutes long, and the number of days off was so different from the job description that it was terrible. There was an allowance also known as bonus, but some employees did not receive a single bill. We would only get 1 day off the week if we're lucky, and there was no summer or New Year's holidays, and no consecutive holidays either. And above all, the boss was the worst. It was a small company, so the boss worked with us, and he would often yell at us and complain about small mistakes for several days. He would force his employees to work overtime while he would go out and have fun himself. He was the kind of guy who would brag about what he did and wouldn't admit his own faults. Because of this guy, I had to do more and more things every day, and my work hours were increasing. In addition to that, it was a physically demanding job, so I was falling apart physically and mentally. I worked to the limit, got home tired, got some sleep, and went back to work, wondering how much longer I could go on like this. I met my husband at that company. My husband was the same age as me, but he was my senior who joined the company a year ahead of me. Around the time I started working there, the previous chief quit, and my husband became the chief by seniority. Being a chief didn't mean you get a better pay, but just more work. With the position came a lot of responsibility. As expected, my husband, who became the chief, became the target of the boss's bullying. He made him do something he wasn't taught before, and when he asks,
"Don't you even know that?"
and gets angry, he yells at him every day for the smallest mistake. Then, in front of the contractor,
"This guy's an idiot. Don't you think so too?"
I wasn't allowed to have my husband's back in front of all the employees to my boss.
"This guy is no good. I can fire him. But do the carry. I'm nice, aren't I?"
By the way, carrying was an even more strenuous job than the one he was doing at that time. My husband is a resilient man, but even he was exhausted every day because of the workload. When my husband started the carrying, the chief position became vacant. Normally, it would be nice to move up the ranks, but in this company, there are no advantages, so no one raised their hand. So the boss decided, as usual by seniority, after my husband left his chief position, I became the next chief. As I had expected, the number of things I had to do was gradually increasing and I couldn't keep up with it. I was the boss's next target, who blamed me for the things like poor sales and even for the customer disputes. I was tired of my boss's behavior, humiliating me for every second, every small mistake, blaming me for everything.
"What? You got something you want to say? Say it. Come on. Come on. I can't hear. Come on." "That's why you're an idiot."
He scoffed at me. I can say anything when he scoffed at me like that because he was the boss and a man at that. Apparently, it's been a really long time since a woman became a chief, and after that, I was made fun of by the boss all the time. It was so hard that I wondered how my husband was working through this. But I did my best. But the harder I worked, the more things I was in charge of. I started doing everything, so the boss got carried away and started adding more and more work. But there's a limit to the amount of work one person can take on. Of course, I tried to do as much as I could, but there were times when it was beyond my capacity. As if in anticipation, the boss came and yelled, and then tormented me. Naturally, my husband, who wasn't amused that I was being harassed, was angry. Then we talked together and my husband and I decided to take revenge. The next day, we started planning our revenge together, and on the day of executing it, the revenge that my husband and I did was quitting the company. We could have sued the company for harassment, but they were a company, and there was a possibility that we wouldn't win with a good lawyer. So we thought of a quicker revenge plan. I'll never forget the look on the president's face when we told him we were both quitting. He didn't even know we were dating. We are getting married.
And in doing so, we are quitting. Because it's tough with the salary here.
We both said. From the boss's point of view, it didn't matter to him that we were gone. He must have thought that if he brought in the new employees and trained them, nothing would interfere with business operations. The boss snickers and...
Go ahead. I guess I'll just be the one to be happy when you two are gone.
And we were able to leave the company smoothly. However, the boss's naive way of thinking was soon overturned. First of all, the physical work that my husband was doing was very tough, and nobody could do it, much less of a female employee. The people who has been doing this for a really long time, and even those who tried, stopped as soon as they felt physical pain. Thanks to this, there was no one left to take charge of the job, and the boss got impatient and did it himself, but the job was so hard that he stopped after one day. The work was not getting done because of that, and the contractors complained. And to the work I was doing, the boss said he could have someone else do it, but it was something other employees could learn quickly, and surely not something a rookie can do. And the boss can't even teach the new employees because of his personality. The only thing he can do is yell at them, and apparently the remaining employees were splitting the work up because it was something they could do. They also have to take care of the newcomers, so they don't have enough manpower at all, and the boss can't mentor the newcomers after all. Furthermore, the work my husband was doing wasn't progressing at all, delaying the deliveries and causing a vicious circle where employees were lost since they had to respond to complaints from the vendors. This caused even more overtime work than before, less sales, and a smaller bonus, which was already a drop in the bucket. The company was now heavily in debt. The word from the vendors were terrible. They're not getting any more work, and the company seems to be in dire straits in no time. By the way, this is what the remaining employee told me, and that employee also quit a short time afterwards. The employees who had lost patience sued the company for power harassment as if they were adding on to the blow. Following in their steps, more and more employees filed suit against the boss. If the employees unite and file a class action lawsuit, that company wouldn't stand a chance after everything they've done. And shortly after my husband and I left the company, we heard that our former workplace went under. Of course, the president of the company will now spend the rest of his life with a lot of debt, and the industry will have blacklisted him, so he won't be able to come back. They got what they deserved. By the way, my husband and I started working again, albeit for different companies. This company rarely has overtime work, and even if we do, we get paid properly. That's the standard in society. But we were so happy that we hugged each other. And although we take turns taking days off, we're able to take it, and we can take the summer holidays and New Year's vacations if we want to. We were able to take time off to accommodate each other's schedules. After that, my husband and I sued the boss. I was so worried that it would be difficult to win against him in court because there was no evidence of power harassment or his awful words. But we were able to use the overtime work and days off as proof and decided to sue. After that, we were both able to receive the full payments for unpaid salary. We had a rough time with that boss, but I'll never forget the last look on his face when he lost everything.
When I was in college, 5 of my friends and I used to drive and travel together. I have my own car, and I'm the only one with a driver's license, so I do all the driving. I didn't mind being the driver because I liked driving. When I filled up the gas in the morning, I picked everyone up at their house and refilled the gas on the way home, and my 4 friends split the cost of that. I was willing to give them a ride because of that arrangement, but then, one day, things took a turn. It was when we traveled far away. It was far away, so gasoline cost more. But Ako didn't like that.
It's hard for the 4 of us to split the cost of this trip. Watashi, you should split the cost with us as well,
she said. Then Biko immediately.
That's not good. She takes her car out every time, and she drives on top of that.
She backed me up, but Ako was not convinced.
But you know, if you include the highway fare, wouldn't it be the same if we took the train? I appreciate the driving, but I still think Watashi gets more out of it if you think about it in terms of hourly wage.
What do you mean? No one is benefiting from it. Watashi pays insurance and taxes on her car too, so there's money involved that you don't even see. And if you take 5 people on a long trip, the car will probably wear down, so if anything, Watashi's the one who's losing out. So we're just grateful that we only have to pay for gas.
Everyone but Ako understood, like Biko, that it was expensive and difficult just to have a car. By the way, it was also Biko who suggested paying for the gas by splitting the cost, except for me. At first, I was reluctant to say, it's fine, but then she said that it would make it harder to travel in my car. I ended up accepting the proposal as is. After that, everyone said various things to Ako, but she kept repeating.
But...
And?
Because...
You have to drive with a lot of caution when you drive long distances with a lot of people in the car. And we all went on a trip together to relax, but she kept nagging, and by the end of the trip I was tired. And to be honest, it was annoying and frustrating. I don't want this to happen in the future, so I decided to make it clear that this wasn't going to work. Okay, then we'll split the gas money among the 5 of us.
What?
No, we can't.
It's fine. It's fine. In exchange, I won't let Ako in my car anymore.
What? What? We don't need your share for short trips, and the 4 of us will split as usual, so let me ride. I'm just asking because I didn't realize how much gas it would cost for a long drive this time.
I don't like that, because it's not clear what you would consider a short trip. Pay or don't ride. 2 options.
Okay, I'll pay.
Ako was very reluctant to pay, but eventually she agreed and then paid me. After that, we decided to go on another trip to a distant place. However, this time, when we were planning the trip, I asked Ako again about the cost of gasoline.
This time we're going farther than before, so it's going to cost more for gas. We're not going to ask Watashi to pay for it, so the 4 of us will split the cost.
What? Why don't we take the train then? Wouldn't that be cheaper?
I checked, and it's basically the same.
Besides, it's no fun to go straight to a destination by train. Isn't it fun to stop along the way and take various detours?
Well, that's true, but...
What are you going to do? Are you going by car? If gas is too expensive, why don't we do it some other time nearby? No pressure.
Okay, I'll go.
So we ended up going on another trip with the 5 of us, with Ako. When it came time to pay for the gas on the way home, Ako started to complain again.
I'm still not convinced. You don't have to split it, but shouldn't you at least put a little bit in, Watashi?
I was so upset when she said that. Then, Ako, you won't have to pay a penny this time. I'll pay. But in return, I won't give you a ride because I don't trust you anymore. Get off now. After saying that, I got out of the car alone and took Ako's luggage out of the trunk and left it at a rest stop at the gas station. Ako is still sitting in the car.
I'll pay! I'll pay you, so don't leave me!
I told you I don't trust you anymore. Come on, get out. And I opened the door on the side where Ako was sitting, and I tried to lead her out.
You're joking, right?
Of course I'm serious. Ako is still holed up in the car after all this. Hurry up and get out! And I screamed at her. Everyone was surprised because I usually never shout this loudly. Ako was also startled and got out of the car in a hurry. So I got into the car, put on my seatbelt, and started the engine.
At least take me home. I'll pay you.
Why don't you just take a cab? Are you going to complain every time I'm tired from driving? You ruin the fun trip every time, and I've had enough of that. That's why I'll never let you ride my car again.
Oh, please don't say that. Even the Buddha forgives 3 times.
Is she serious? I'm not Buddha. I'm just a human being. Bye-bye. And so, I drove off without her. From then on, almost every time we went out in the car, the 4 of us made plans to go out together. Since we went to college together, I tried to invite Ako to join us when we used public transportation until we graduated so as not to make waves. We lived in a rather rural area where it was inconvenient without a car, so we rarely traveled by public transportation, and our social interaction decreased dramatically. Then, it was senior year and summer vacation. Everyone had been offered jobs in the same prefecture. So everyone, including Ako, started going to driving school at the same time. And in the fall, they successfully got their licenses. So we talked about taking turns taking a trip in the car for our graduation trip, but my car is family only. so my friends can't drive. Ako is the one who said that the train is cheaper than gas and highway fees, so there's no way she would rent a car on top of that. For the graduation trip, we were to rent a car and to take a 2-night trip without telling Ako. In the end, we found out that rental cars cannot be driven by people who have less than a year's license, so we ended up taking a trip in my car driven by me. After graduation, Ako,
Wanna go on a trip once in a while? I'll drive too.
she invited us from time to time. I almost took her up on the offer, thinking that if she learned to drive herself, she might understand how I felt. But in the end, I reconsidered and said no, because people who don't pay for gas or are inconsiderate to drivers are often inconsiderate in their daily lives as well. After a year, Ako gave up, and she stopped contacting me altogether, and no one knows how she's doing. But one day, Siko found a post from a college classmate's social media which happened to mention someone who seemed like Ako. I went on a trip with a friend and we got cheated out of the gas money, on top of being nagged, so I had the worst time. Something like that was written. It had a few photos with Ako before that post, so it was definitely about her. Biko and I thought how nothing has changed with her. Not long after that post, Ako contacted me for the first time in a while. I don't want to see someone who has no manners. Sent. I told her clearly, and we have been traveling with the 4 of us since then.
Thank you for watching all the way to the end. What did you think of today's episode? Leave a comment and let me know your thoughts on today's story. And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe.